Thick black smoke billows out over the Gare de Strasbourg in Paris. A massive steam locomotive heaves forward, metal violently groaning against the tracks as it begins to move. The destination? Constantinople. The date is October 4th, 1883, and this is no ordinary departure. Just to pull this off required an absolute logistical miracle. We're talking about a continuous route crossing 6 sovereign countries, running for a staggering 80 hours straight and covering 1,900 miles of track. At a time when crossing borders in Europe was notoriously fragmented and chaotic, this was an astonishing, almost unbelievable feat.
The public reaction was immediate, and honestly, they were breathless. Newspapers everywhere instantly dubbed it a palace on wheels, because it wasn't just a way to get from point A to point B, you know? It was this mobile masterpiece of luxury that Europe had quite literally never seen before. The Orient Express had officially arrived.
The mastermind behind the whole operation was a Belgian engineer named Georges Nagelmackers. His obsession actually kicked off back in 1869 during a trip to the US, where he saw these American Pullman sleeping cars. He was absolutely stunned that Americans could sleep in actual comfortable beds while crossing their massive continent, while Europe had nothing even remotely close to that. So Nagelmackers spent the next 14 years on this relentless crusade. He had to convince highly skeptical railroad companies, stubborn governments, and even royalty to let a single continuous service cross their borders. And remember, they all had different rail gauges, totally different customs, the works. He founded his company in 1872 and painstakingly negotiated access one single country at a time until that very first successful run.
And man, once you stepped inside those Wagons-Lits carriages, you were completely insulated in pure luxury. Just imagine it. Polished mahogany paneling and opulent silk upholstery glowing under elegant gaslighting. The dining car is serving up 5-course French meals on crisp white linen with heavy crystal glasses. But the real engineering magic? The first-class compartments seamlessly converted from these lavish sitting rooms by day straight into private bedrooms by night. That unprecedented level of opulence naturally pulled in a very specific type of crowd. The passenger manifest reads like a 20th century history book. You've got royalty like Edward VII, rubbing shoulders with spies, diplomats, and international arms dealers. Imagine just walking down the corridor to grab a drink, and you pass Mata Hari, Marlene Dietrich, Leon Trotsky, or Lawrence of Arabia, who actually reportedly took the train to go start his desert campaign. The allure was so intoxicating that King Boris III of Bulgaria actually insisted on driving the locomotive himself whenever it passed through his country.
But these carriages weren't just playgrounds for the rich and famous. They were literal stages for world history. The historical weight of the train cars themselves is just immense. When it finally came time to sign the Armistice ending World War I, they didn't do it in some grand, sprawling governmental palace. They signed it right inside a Wagons-Lits carriage. Both sides of the conflict even heavily used the route for intense intelligence operations.
Fast forward to the 1920s and 30s, and the train enters its absolute golden age. The premier journey became what was known as the Simplon route. This specific path swept passengers from Paris down through the romance of Venice and all the way to the exotic gateway of Istanbul. It totally cemented itself as the ultimate, most coveted journey across the European continent. Right at the peak of this era, the train got permanently immortalized in pop culture. In 1934, Agatha Christie dropped Murder on the Orient Express, and get this, she actually wrote the novel at the Pera Palace Hotel in Istanbul, which happens to be exactly where the train's passengers traditionally stayed after finishing their massive transcontinental journey.
Of course, that golden era couldn't last forever. World War II nearly wiped out the entire network. And then, the harsh reality of the Cold War and the descent of the Iron Curtain quite literally sliced the legendary route in half. This train, which had been this shining symbol of European unity and borderless travel, was suddenly forced to halt abruptly right at the edge of Soviet territory.
But you know, politics wasn't the final nail in the coffin. What truly killed the Orient Express was just brutal, undeniable efficiency. Commercial aviation arrived and brought a harsh reality check with it. A journey from Paris to Istanbul that took 3 luxurious, lingering days on the train could suddenly be knocked out in 3 swift hours on a plane. So, the post-war decline was slow, but it was absolutely unstoppable. As airplanes completely took over the luxury market, the original carriages just started to age. That glamorous clientele of kings and spies shifted entirely to budget backpackers.
Slowly, piece by piece, the magic was stripped away. The routes were sequentially cut down, that legendary dining car serving the five-course meals, gone. The opulent sleeping cars faded into completely ordinary, bare-bones utilitarian transport.
That steady decay led to a really quiet, unceremonious end on December 14, 2009. That was the date of the final, scheduled run of the Orient Express. It didn't go to Istanbul, it didn't cross 6 countries, it traveled barely a fraction of the original route, literally just a brief hop from Paris over to Strasbourg. And after that, those iconic blue and gold carriages were pulled from scheduled service entirely.
126 years. That is how long the Orient Express lasted as a regular service. Think about that. It survived 2 devastating world wars, a massive revolution, and the complete radical reshaping of European borders. It outlasted actual empires, only to eventually be defeated by the sheer speed of the jet engine.
Now, the original scheduled service might be dead, but the ghosts of the Golden Age are definitely still around. Original 1920s sleeping cars actually do still exist. Today, luxury operators run these occasional, highly exclusive heritage trips. Like on the Venice Simplon Orient Express, you can still ride restored Art Deco carriages on a route from London to Venice. But recreating that history? Yeah, it comes with a seriously steep price tag, running anywhere from $3,000 to $30,000 per person.
When that original service ended, what died wasn't just a train route, it was the romantic idea of travel itself. It was this belief that the journey could, and honestly should, matter just as much as the destination. The idea that crossing a continent should be a profound shared experience, and that the stranger sitting across from you in a dining car might just have stories worth hearing.
Nobody tells stories about airplane seats.